Did you ever have one of those days when the time seemed right and you just wanted to get away? Such was the case on a late November day in northwest Montana. The moment I and my brother from another mother, Mark, stood overlooking a beautiful coal creek and surrounding mountains, I knew I wanted to get back for a second look. Neighbor, good friend, and huckleberry picking mentor Dennis and I decided to go for a butt in my enclosed side-by-side. So we loaded up some minor food and water supplies, as well as a spade, shovel, the chainsaw — you never know if a fallen tree will block one's path — and an extra 5 or 6 gallons of gas. All prepared, right? We made our way through the Flathead Valley backroads, up to Columbia Falls, chatting and enjoying the beautiful scenery along the way. By the route we took, it's about 27 miles up the North Fork Road to Columbia Falls. It's another 20 miles or so to the Moose Lake Turnoff and National Forest Road 316, where the pavement turns to gravel. Bumpy, icy conditions certainly dictated slowing the pace and exercising caution. Turning west onto the 316, the road conditions didn't improve, showing signs of deeper ruts and more snow. No problem for the Can-Am. Four-wheel drive switched on. We were motoring along nicely, enjoying more snowy mountain scenery, encountering the occasional hunters and Christmas tree seekers. Along the way, we could see some fairly fresh tracks from elk or moose, and the occasional small critter tracks as well. We really didn't have a solid route planned. Probably our downfall in the very near future. Just after crossing Hallowat Creek, there's a junction that we determined headed in a westerly direction.
In here, that's 6. That'd be about North Fork Road, 8 miles.
Yeah, I think I'll take this week. With a quick look at that big brown sign at the junction, undoubtedly too quick of a look, I noted that it said 8 miles to the North Fork Road. Great! What I didn't note at the time was that it was referring to the fact that we were indeed 8 miles from the North Fork, but back in the direction we'd come from. Note to self: be sure to look at the direction the arrow is pointing. Motoring along, we began climbing from 4,200 feet to around 5,200 feet elevation. The higher we ascended in elevation, the snow began to deepen. Dennis noted some critter tracks and hopped out for a closer look. Some of the tracks looked to have claw impressions. Having left the plow on and seeing the snowpack thicken, I had the bright idea to use the plow to clear our way. Still on the Hallowat.
Yeah.
We were doing so well. The Can-Am seemed ready, willing, and able
To go where no man has gone before.
Emerging from the trees, the fall sunlight reflecting off the fresh snow was beautiful. We continued on, sometimes fighting the widths of the ruts that didn't quite match the width of our rig. The snow now deep enough to give a hint of causing us to high center, I lowered the plow.
Thought I'd try the plow for a little. Figured if I push it to that side, it'd create a little more berm for us in case we get squirrely.
That worked. For a while. And we figured other folks had made it this far, so right or wrong, mostly wrong as we'd soon find out, we forged ahead.
What's it look like back there? I can't tell.
Whether lured ahead by the beautiful scenery or just plain stupidity, we were about to hit the wall of the Can-Am's capability.
Yeah, another vehicle quit now.
A simple plow angle adjustment. That'll do it. No, it wouldn't. Some 7+ miles in, we were stopped in our tracks, 30 or 40 feet from someone's previous attempt. No continuing tracks showing. Stopped not soon enough, we were high-centered. For the next couple hours, we took turns manning the single spade shovel we had, digging by hand and pushing to no avail, moving the machine only a few yards. It was nearing 4 p.m. and light was fading. Reality set in. We had no choice but to set off back down the mountain, on foot. Tens of miles from civilization, we locked the vehicle, scooped up some water and the small rations we'd brought, and began our journey through the rutted ice and snow. Initially, we walked together, Dennis snapping a few photos of a brilliant orange sunset. The light would soon be gone, and we would be searching for our footing, slipping in and out of our tire tracks that now seemed to mock our lack of judgment. Whether on the adventure bike, in the Can-Am, or on a trip in the truck, the one very important piece of equipment I always carry is my now very old first-generation Spot personal tracking device. Until now, its only use has been to send check-in messages to let certain folks know that I'm okay. This time, I would test the help function, and I pressed the button before leaving the Can-Am. For the next 3 hours we walked, slid, and sometimes fell in the darkness. It wasn't long until I began having severe pain in both hips and my left knee. Feelings of doubt kept creeping in, concerned whether I'd make it back down. Dennis forged on ahead of me, and I found myself stopping every 30 yards or so to stand, kneel, or sit, trying to relieve the pain. Along the way, I sent additional help messages from the Spot unit. At about the 4-mile mark, I was in near exhaustion, and with each weary step, contemplated just sitting down to wait for rescue. The forest can be a spooky place in the darkness. The moon was full, but it only lit the path in front of us when it occasionally filtered through the gaps in the trees. Fresh critter tracks in the snow appeared to be a predator chasing or following a rabbit, letting us know that we weren't alone. I kept my water and food in one hand and tried to keep the other hand on my .45 caliber 1911 that was resting in my chest holster. It's unknown exactly how far each of us walked, but it's safe to say that I did at least 4.5 miles, while Dennis probably did more than 6 miles. Eventually the headlights of a vehicle approached. The Spot unit had done its job. Flathead Sheriff Deputy Grant emerged to meet me. My first words? "Boy, am I glad to see you." He had already rescued Dennis. Finding a turnaround, Deputy Grant hauled us all the way home. That evening, and after speaking with Kevin, owner of the local tow company Green Tow, Dennis and I thought perhaps we could save some cash and rescue the Can-Am ourselves. The next day, we loaded up Dennis's Razor side-by-side on my flatbed and started back up to the scene of the crime. We figured we'd haul the Razor to the Moose Lake Junction and ride up from there, staying well aft of the Can-Am, and use the winch to unstick the beast. Once off the main road, towing an 18-foot trailer and an extremely rough and icy road made for slow going. At the Moose Lake Junction, we unloaded the Razor and headed up the mountain. Given the much narrower gauge of the Razor, the trip up was a bit squirrely. Its gauge didn't seem to fit any of that of the various ruts. Dennis really had to make an effort to keep the smaller machine on the safe side of the road. There was at least one bright spot in the rescue effort. I was able to retrieve my crocheted hat that I'd lost the night before. As it turned out, and according to the waypoints I'd saved, we were only able to get within about 4,000 feet of the Can-Am before getting stuck again. This time, however, we managed to free the Razor. With no suitable turnaround, Dennis had to back the Razor down the hill about 3/4 of a mile. Somewhat dejected that the mission wasn't accomplished, we made our way back down to the truck, loaded up, and headed for home. Milepost 4.
Fun, isn't it?
Ain't we got fun. So we made it about 7 miles and probably had a half a mile to go and could not get at my rig. Up that road there. I knew at that point it was either get Green Tow to finish the job or risk waiting until spring thaw to rescue the silver machine. Ringing Green Tow owner Kevin the following morning, he informed me that he would be free around noontime and would load up his specially modified Jeep Cherokee and head north. While much of Greentoe's business might be in the realm of normal highway vehicle accidents, it's apparent that he also specializes in tricky off-road recoveries as well. In a bit of a holding pattern, I awaited Kevin's call. Upon receiving that call, it was all hands on deck. Dennis and I once again hooked up my flatbed and headed up to meet Kevin and his partner.
Day 3, back on 486. The big boys are coming to do the rescue. We shall see how it goes.
Arriving first at the Big Creek Ranger Station, we waited for Kevin and his partner. Once we hooked up and shared some intel with the boys, we'd started up the pothole-filled icy 316 road.
Back into the woods one more time.
Rather than beat the big haul rig to death and themselves, Kevin wisely chose to unload the Jeep and soon rolled past us out of sight.
There's our rescue vehicle, Greentoe. Good luck, boys.
It was slow going, but we finally reached the Moose Lake turn and rally point just before 4 p.m.
We're having fun now.
Or what?
We're having fun now.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, this is fun. How good.
Wet snow coming down and it's getting dark. Great. Well, it is 5:21 p.m. The snow is coming down and it's dark, and there is no sign of the boys yet.
With nightfall descending and the weather worsening, we pondered the sanity of the crew starting up the mountain at such a late hour. We weren't going anywhere until we knew they were back down safely.
Pretty good.
And finally,
2
around
hours.
6 p.m., headlights appeared through the snowfall. They'd done it. A huge wave of relief washed over me.
Well, they made it.
It was all in a day's, or shall I say night's work, for the pros at Greentoe. Just to give you an idea, this is part of what Kevin and his partner faced coaxing the Can-Am back down the mountain. Incredible, the skill and courage these guys have. There are sections of this road where the bank drops off steeply to the ravine below, not a place for mistakes. Not that I ever plan on repeating this mistake again, but if by some chance we were stuck on a mountain, this is the company I'd want coming to the rescue. After thanking Kevin and agreeing to settle the bill the next day, I followed Dennis back out to the highway, where we could load up on flatter, more level ground.
Well, they did it. And I am so glad, because the snow is building up and it's getting deep. So we're going to run this thing out to the 486 road and hopefully load it up on the trailer and head on home. It's been a long 3 days. Making our way out slow and steady. Last thing you want to do is send it over the edge, I guess.
We did get the rig loaded up and back to the home 20, vowing not to repeat the same mistakes, and there were a few. We learned a few lessons on this trip. The capability limits of our machines, when to stop, turn around, and go no further. What equipment we took versus what we didn't take. One is not always as prepared for an emergency as one might think. Anyone venturing out into the backcountry should invest in a personal locator beacon. There are several companies now offering units of various capabilities. I've owned this first generation spot unit since around 2007. It's somewhat antiquated by today's standards, but it still does the important tasks of letting loved ones know that I'm okay, or a global rescue agency know that I need help, pinpointing my location with very close satellite accuracy. It definitely saved Dennis and me from a potential frigid overnight stay in the mountains. While you might spend a few $100s acquiring the physical unit, most companies now offer relatively low-cost monthly payment plans, some with the option to temporarily suspend your plan. Newer units can now also connect to your phone via Bluetooth and can send and receive text messages. To the people watching this video, you may already know about these devices and their capabilities. Great. I just cannot overemphasize the importance of carrying one of these potentially life-saving marvels. Hi folks, Don here, coming to you from a rather cold and wintry Montana. This was the first time I really ever needed to be rescued in this way using the spot unit. I'd always used the unit mainly to send a text message to my wife to let her know I was okay. To be honest, during the walk down in the cold and the ice and the snow, I really began to get concerned and fear for my safety. Wondering actually if I was actually going to make it out. I was, as I said in the video, in a lot of pain, and I was exhausted. Trying to find one's footing in the ice and the ruts and all that caused me to fall a few times. But although it was an expensive mistake, I'm thankful that this adventure had a happy ending. I really want to once again thank Deputy Grant from the Flathead Sheriff's Department. I was so glad to see his pickup coming up the road and a pair of headlights coming my way. I can't tell you what that meant to me at that point. Thank you. I do appreciate it. Dennis and I both appreciate it. I also want to acknowledge the professionalism and courtesy of Green Tow. Kevin and his partner did an excellent job bringing our vehicle back down the mountainside in some horrendous snowy conditions. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I do appreciate it. Thank you for watching this video. Stay safe out there, and I hope to share more Montana adventures with you soon. Take care.